Bob, he prayed for healing. We need to heal ourselves, heal our families, heal our church, our movement, heal this nation, heal the world. And is that what we're here for? What are we here for? When you say, why are you here? Someone might say, oh, I'm here because my mom told me I have to go to church or whatever. Or you can say, why am I here? And you can think of it from the bigger perspective. Why do I exist? Why was I born? Why do I breathe? And what is my destiny? So why are we here? We are here because we were created. We were designed and created by God. From before we even existed, before human beings even came into existence, already God had a desire and had an idea. And we were designed and created by a living God. And today, I want to talk about our purpose in life and completing our purpose in life. We're going to start with some Bible quotes. In Matthew, it says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there is a plank in your own eye?" But the second part says, "You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." If you read this on the surface, it might say to you, mind your own business. You have no business talking to someone about their issues or their problems because you yourself are, a mess. Maybe you're even more of a mess than this person. But God did not design and create us to live, to be soul survivors and to live without relationships. In fact, it's the opposite. What he's saying here is, before you're going to be able to help another person with whatever their issue may be, first you're going to have to deal with yourself. First, you're going to have to make sure that you are clear about yourself and your own situation and your own motivation. Why am I concerned about what that person is doing? Is it really for the right reason? Is it really for the right motivation? First, I have to really look at myself. And if I have a problem, if I have an issue, that I have to deal with that issue. If I deal with that issue, then maybe I can reach out and I can share and I can help. Because then it continues to say, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." I think it's talking about truth. If you know something is the truth, you have to be very careful how you approach another person. Because if you approach another person in the wrong way, they're not going to receive it. They're going to throw it away. They're going to cast it aside. And in fact, they might even turn on you and tear you to pieces, even though you might be telling them the truth. Because sometimes the truth is very painful. Why is that? I found a website. It's called Unification. You go to this address, and there's this very, how can I say, full, very big, full website. and it's all about our members and blogging and communicating, and there's a lot of things on there, but I found an article written by a person. Now this person kind of wrote this a little bit anonymously, but what I understand is they're Russian. I don't know if they're a man or a woman, but they're a member of our movement, and they're Russian, and they write different articles. They've done some research. So he wrote this: games people play in the family, gossiping and intrigues. Gossiping and intrigues are learned from parents at a very early age. Don't share your pain and displeased feelings with your children in intimate moments. You don't want to twist their hearts and bring them to hell by teaching them that love is to share intimately things against others. What does that mean? Well, he explained some things in this image. He was talking, this is kind of psychological, talking about triangulation. And what this means, simply speaking, let's read it. Triangulation occurs when person A has a boundary that person B does not want to respect. To get around the boundary, person B establishes a relationship with a third person, C, who is close to person A, and uses that person to get inside with person A by proxy, hence violating the boundary. So in simple language, what is this saying? Suppose, that you want to have some kind of relationship with me. You and I are having some level of relationship, especially, this is an example in the family. Husband and wife having a relationship. But something is blocking, or there's some reason why the wife has something that she isn't sharing with the husband, or the husband isn't able to, he has different interests, and the wife is not able to make unity at any particular time with the husband. For whatever reason, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. For whatever reason, there is not a perfect flow of relationship. Then, what can happen in the family is if the person who is, putting up that barrier, I don't want to talk right now or whatever, then the other person, instead of trying to directly deal with this person, they go to the children. And through the children, they start to talk or share a little bit too much about, I tried to talk to your father about such, and it didn't work, blah, blah. If the nature of the barrier is something fallen, something unprincipled, something ungodly, or isn't centered on true love, then what happens is the fallen nature. So instead of directly making a relationship with another person, sometimes the easy way or the wrong way or the unprincipled way is to use other people to get to that person. That's where gossiping or talking or speaking, it might begin as something very subtle, but what you're doing is you're not having an honest relationship. A and B are not directly communicating with each other, and a third person gets involved. It could be a person, could be a group, could be a whole nation. So suddenly, instead of direct relationship, direct communication, the indirect, and through that indirect relationship, things become confusing. Things become chaotic. Because there's a certain dishonesty, a very subtle dishonesty that is taking place. Because instead of directly going to the person that you have this issue with, you're going indirectly and you're involving other people in a way that is not fair to them. So let's call on this a little bit more, I discovered another article. And I'm going to talk about this not in a way to be critical, but in a way we want to understand the principles. Why are we here? And how is restoration going to take place? So this same person wrote a very involved article about his experiences with the sanctuary church. He said, we cannot go with resentment against resentment. Resentment, accusations, and fear trap our minds under evil spiritual influence. We have to love and liberate the original mind of resentful people. Okay, fundamentally speaking, any kind of anger and resentment and criticism that we have, even it can be legitimate, it can have a very, very good reason for it to be there. Still, we have to deal with it. But we always are going to have to deal with it in the principled way. If we don't deal with our difficulties or our struggles in the principled way, then we will only create more difficulty and more confusion and more resentment. One spirit mind never goes negative. That's the nature of the physical mind, which cannot feel the heart of others and judges externally, feeling no pain in hurting them with accusations. These are the traits of a person abiding only by the physical mind. Okay, now he's pulling and using this as an example. Bear with me. That's what the sanctuary church does. They don't understand the basic divine principle. Negative talk generates negative energy. I see Hunjanim's sermons are full with resentment. Obviously, it is real in his heart. I can feel compassion, but he should be mature to understand that will only send him to hell, dragging there all the sanctuary church with himself. The spiritual mind always loves. It cannot even think of blaming. It takes all blame upon itself for the sake of liberating God and humanity. That's when God's power is released. That's the essence of Father's teaching and life. As Mother says, no matter how unjust the persecution we receive, we do not blame anyone. Rather, we love them. That's why we are called unificationists. Okay, he's making a point about Hunjanim in the sanctuary church. There's too much accusation there. Too much talking about, verbalizing, complaining about certain issues, and magnifying it and multiplying it. He's saying, yes, this could be legitimate. I understand. This is real. In his mind and his heart, he's feeling these things. But is this approach going to create a solution to our problems? In Satan's world, however, there is no escape. You're always accused. Your heart is always in pain and agony. Resentment directly connects your heart to the resonance of hell. Both sides feel pain, the accused ones and the accusers. It's inescapable satanic cycle. Why sanctuary church feels excused to create it? Are they blind? They don't have hearts? Trapped emotions made them like that. Instead, we should always be in the resonance of love. Accusations want to press others down in hell, but the resonance of love always searches to liberate the hearts of others. How did Satan drag God's children to hell? He uses fear and resentment. Unresolved pain in the heart will inevitably lead to resentment and change one's perspective, even to the point of neglecting all core principles and sane logic. But sanctuary church have no remorse for doing that. Why? At first it is hidden gossip, sharing displeased emotions, like Ham. But once he finds enough support, he feels the power to multiply evil openly and viciously with no remorse, calling his own mother some names. How much more bizarre things can go? All this seems strange and confusing if we don't understand the spiritual reasons behind it. You know, we are almost primarily emotional beings. Okay? even people like myself, I like to think of myself as a smart guy. You know, I'm very intelligent. You know, I think things out. But honestly speaking, most of the time, we are very, very emotional. We don't even realize how deep emotion goes. Because emotion, the fundamental base of emotion is love. And love is the most powerful force. It overrides logic and reason, right? And when you're angry or resentful, or there's something deep inside you that's bothering you, if it becomes strong enough inside of you, it's going to override even your own logic and reason. And you'll begin to behave in a way that is unprincipled, that seems to be, ununderstandable. But it can be understood. Now this person starts to say something, I don't know if it's true or not, but here's what he says. I have the ability to see one's lineage and what kind of spiritual influences are upon him. When I look spiritually, I could see 100 million historic, resentful people doing returning resurrection through the sanctuary church. God showed me 70,000 evil angelic leaders, masters of lying, tricking, and misleading, working directly on Huntsman. Yet, I could see that his lineage is clean. There is no personal base for that invasion. It is all for the purpose of some cosmic level indemnity. Then he says, read Father's prayer when he blessed Huntsman. Father said, with this blessing prayer, I am letting you know that when you become the owner of the Word and approach its deeper content, you will discover the words, achieving victory over resentment. So, maybe there's a much deeper reason why some of the things that are happening, not just in our movement, but to us. Why are we here? Who are we in this day and in this age? What does God want from us? What does God want from every single human being? The same thing. God wants us to grow and become a true son and a true daughter with the ability to love unconditionally and to have compassion and care for each other. God wants to create one family of mankind. One family. Not two families, not three families, not two religions, not three religions, not two nations or three. One nation, one family, one religion, one principle, one love. One heart. To do that, all the resentments, all the problems that we have somehow have to be resolved. They have to be resolved. If we're going to have true love, then we have to deal with whatever is preventing us. If there are chains that are keeping us from moving in a certain direction, then unless we break those chains, we can't move in that direction. We have to break the chains. We have to deal with the history, the past. That's the history of restoration through indemnity. Why God and true Father allow that to happen? Historic fallen natures and resentments can only be resolved if they reappear for a period of time and are reversed and resolved. In this case, there are different levels of indemnity to be completed at the same time. Individual, church, and cosmic indemnity. Now let's go to the divine principle and read about the returning resurrection of spirits. Now, do we believe that we are primarily spiritual beings and not physical beings? That we are temporarily physical, but we are eternal spiritually. That's a very profound reality to understand and relate to. God is more concerned about your spiritual life than He is about your physical life. Your physical life has its purpose and its position and its meaning. But God would gladly sacrifice your physical life if it will help and add to and increase and develop your spiritual life. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world, but he loses his soul? God is looking at our universe, at this cosmos, through spiritual and physical reality. Unfortunately, you and I, we only live in a pretty fundamental physical reality. We have difficulties dealing with the spiritual side of life. It doesn't even matter if you're a person who's, spiritually open or spiritually sensitive. It might even create more problems because some of the spiritual environment around us is very chaotic. A lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of hatred. How do we deal with it? There are several classes of spirits who abide outside paradise, talking about the thousands, tens, millions, billions of people who lived their lives but never were able to reach a certain level of spiritual growth and maturity. First, let us examine the returning resurrection of spirits who believed in religions other than Christianity during their lifetime. Just as any two people must first form a common base with each other before they can work toward a common goal, earthly people and spirits can work to achieve a common providential goal only when they first form a common base. Therefore, a spirit who returns to the earth for his resurrection seeks a counterpart among the earthly people of the religion in which he believed during his earthly life. A spirit descends to the person of his choice and guides him. When he helps that person fulfill the purpose of the providence of restoration, they both receive the same benefit. I've often used the example of a father sitting in a stadium watching his son compete, maybe in the Super Bowl. When that son wins and achieves a victory, that father achieves the same victory. Spiritually, they are so connected if there's the relationship of true love, that if that father's life, if during that father's life, what if he had played in the Super Bowl himself, but he failed? He couldn't win. Something happened. He was, defeated. And all of his life, he lived many, many years remembering that painful moment when he could have scored the touchdown, but it didn't happen. And he feels this sense of loss, this sense of regret. But the moment he sees his son win that victory, all of that regret, all of that pain is gone. Almost like magic, because of the heartistic connection. People lived in this world for thousands and tens of thousands of years and suffered and sacrificed, never knowing God and God's love and God's truth and God's goodness. Some people lived very, very miserable lives. Sometimes they themselves were very bad, evil people. And they imparted on other people lots of pain and suffering. And then they die. And they're stuck in a spiritual realm where they can no longer change their lives directly. Because the spiritual world, the spiritual principles are different. There's no indemnity there. This is why there's this concept of returning resurrection through the lineage, through the descendants, through the people alive on the earth at that special moment when Christ returns, coming with the myriads, the angels, the angelic world, the returning resurrection. Second, let us examine the returning resurrection of spirits who lived a conscientious life even though they did not believe in religion. No one among fallen humanity embodies perfect goodness because no one has resolved the original sin within himself. Hence, a good spirit is one who has relatively more goodness in him than an evil spirit. These good spirits descend to good people on earth and cooperate with them in order to help them fulfill the purpose of God's providence of restoration. In the process, the spirits receive the same benefits as the people they have helped. Doesn't matter, we're not talking about religion here. We're not talking about a faith. We're talking about a reality. Is God the designer and creator of the universe or not?
Yes.
Do we have eternal life or not?
Yes.
Are we meant to live a life centered on the love of God or not?
Yes.
If that's all true, then this is true also. It's true. And guess what? It doesn't matter if you're religious or not. And ultimately, it won't even matter, in some sense, if you're the person who happens to be on the wrong side of the law or the principle. Or even if you're evil, eventually you too can change and go back. No one among fallen humanity embodies perfect goodness. You know, this point, we are all in this together. God is looking at all mankind right now, collectively. Everything that is happening centered on the same principles. Whether it's happening to our family right here, whether it's happening to our church as a whole, whether it's happening in the nation of America, between the races, between different groups of people, it's all the same principle. Somehow, everything is being revisited, and I'll get to that. Third, let us examine the returning resurrection of evil spirits. In the Bible, we read about the cursed, who are liable to the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. His angels here refers to evil spirits who live and work under the control of the devil. The spiritual creatures commonly known as ghosts, whose features and identity are often unclear, are none other than evil spirits. Even evil spirits are able to receive the merit of the age by returning to the earth. However, the works of evil spirits do not always bear fruit and result in their receiving the benefit of returning resurrection. This is where it becomes tricky. This is where it becomes difficult. Difficult for God. You know the story of the prodigal son. The one son who is the most arrogant, the most angry, the most resentful, the most caving. He leaves. But when he returns, the father throws such a big party for him. And his own brother becomes like, "What are you doing, Dad? Why are you doing this? I was here the whole time, and look at this. This guy was a mess, and he's coming." He says, "Yeah, I loved you. I've always loved you. But don't you know how much I loved your brother too? And now he's returned." Don't we understand? God loves all people. It doesn't matter how evil they've become. God has to save them. And the only way he's going to do that is he has to use people that are willing to sacrifice their hearts the same way God is willing to sacrifice his heart to save his lost children. And it'll mean that good people might have to go through a lot of painful situations. How then can the works of evil spirits result in casting judgment on behalf of heaven? See, to receive such benefits, their works must have the effect of punishing earthly people to help them make conditions to indemnify their failures, which have frustrated God's past efforts to cleanse them of their sins. How then can the works of evil spirits result in casting judgment on behalf of heaven? Let us take an example. Suppose there is a person living on earth based on the merit of the age, who, based on the merit of the age, is about to graduate from his current sphere of benefit to a higher sphere of benefit. He cannot graduate to the new sphere of benefit unless he first makes some condition of indemnity to remove the sins of the past. Suppose the Messiah comes, and the Messiah says, "Here, I have opened the gates to the kingdom of heaven. Please, enter the kingdom of heaven with me." And the Messiah makes all these conditions and pays this indemnity and sacrifices and creates the kingdom of heaven. That's the benefit. And then that means whoever's alive at the time, when the Messiah comes, is able to receive the benefit of that age. They're ready to graduate. God is inviting them. God is calling them to come into the kingdom. Finally, the gates are open. The kingdom of heaven is here. Come, enter the kingdom of heaven. But they can't. Because their own fallen nature, their own sins, are preventing them from receiving that benefit. How then? What condition can be made for them to be liberated so that they can join with the others, so that everybody can enter the kingdom of heaven? The evil spirits who have tormented him receive a corresponding. He cannot graduate to the new sphere of benefit unless he first makes some condition of indemnity to remove the sins of the past. In the case of graduating from the family sphere to the clan sphere, a person must pay the debt of sin both for himself and for the ancestors of his clan. Heaven allows evil spirits to torment him as punishment for this sin. If he willingly endures the suffering given by the evil spirits and overcomes it, he will have successfully paid the indemnity through this condition and thus be entitled to enter the higher sphere of benefit at the clan level. The evil spirits who have tormented him receive a corresponding benefit. This is the way that, based on the merit of the age, the providence of restoration expands its sphere of benefit from the family level to the clan level, the national level, and the world level. Whenever humanity is to graduate to a higher level, the person leading the providence must make a condition of indemnity to resolve the sins which he or his forefathers have committed. What is happening in our world today? True parents have said they have completed everything, that the gates to the kingdom of heaven is open wide, that the age of restoration through indemnity is finished, that the merit of the age is so great. And yet, look around us. Why? Because people are not practicing the principles of true love. They've been duped. They've been deceived for so long, and people have these bad habits, these old habits, this old way of looking at everything. And until they work it out, until it's resolved, we can't go to the kingdom of heaven. We have to go to the kingdom of heaven. Not just me, not just the Unification Church, not just Christians, not just Muslims, not just atheists, everybody. God is concerned about everybody. So when we look at the world, we also, obviously, each of us has a tendency. We're only going to see things from the perspective of our own, personal experience. We look at things from the viewpoint of our own race, or our own nation, maybe our own political connection. We have to be very careful. We have to look at things through the eyes of God, through the eyes of the principle of restoration through indemnity and the recreation, centered on true love. The works of evil spirits may help an earthly person fulfill indemnity conditions to purge his sin in two different ways. First, the spirit may trouble the earthly person directly. I suddenly have these feelings. I feel angry. I feel resentful. Then I need to be careful. I need to resolve my feelings in a principled way. Instead of multiplying anger and resentment, I need to deal with it correctly. Either repent or communicate, share honestly, and resolve. Then, if that's an evil spirit around me, I change that spirit. Second, the evil spirit may descend to the spirit self of another person living on earth who is about to commit a sin comparable to the sin of the person to be punished, and work through the second person to attack him. People are filled with anger and resentment, and then they're attacking each other. How we respond to these situations is the most important thing. We can't respond with anger and resentment and hatred. We have to respond with compassion and concern and care and love. And if we do, we influence the people who are committing the evil acts. We help them. We help them to change. In either case, if the earthly person gratefully and willingly suffers the work of the evil spirit, he will make the indemnity condition to purge his and his ancestors' sin. This sin will then be resolved, and he will enter the higher sphere of benefit, which has become available in the new era. Thus, the works of the evil spirits will have cast judgment on the person for his sin on behalf of heaven. Consequently, the spirit will receive the same benefits as the earthly person. He too will enter the higher sphere of benefit. I propose to you that what's happening in our world around us right now is this process. That there is this coming together, without us being perfectly aware of it, of the spiritual and the physical, of unresolved historical problems, and the incredible benefit of the age that we have through the teaching of the true parents, through the standard and the true love of true parents. The highest standard of love is now available. And if we take that principle, and if we hold on to that in our minds and in our hearts, and practice that, we are going to change the world. We will change this world around us. Finally, once and for all, these resentments will be resolved to the point where we will be able to really come together as true brothers and sisters, as one true family. So, going back now to what this person wrote, he explained in these three places about this first part was the principle. Now let's look at what he wrote. To qualify it on the individual level, to qualify and enter the realm of perfection, everyone has to go through a period of complete rejection, yet gladly endure, meaning overcoming these heavy historic feelings without resentment. This is the very reason Father pushed his own children once they have reached the top of the growth stage. For the same reason, many of our best leaders, lecturers, and missionaries also experienced a period of complete rejection. Those who overcame could enter the benefits of the age, to grow to a divine spirit. Those who failed, developing resentments, were trapped under Satan's dominion, or stayed struggling, confused, and non-functional. They are easy prey for sanctuary church, having the same common base of unresolved feelings. All right? On the church level, to divide good and evil within the church, God carries the providence of separation. All those who failed into resentment, humanism, or other deviations of the principle have to separate on the Cain side. The rest of the church has to realize what's wrong with that and center on the principle, cleansing itself from all humanism, criticism, gossiping, etc. Okay, there are the people who we can point to and say, oh, you're not following the church, you're not obeying, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we can try to take the speck out of their eye, but first, let us really internalize ourselves. Let us really reflect. What is my real motivation for being here? What is my real motivation for demanding that they follow me, or demanding that they come back and follow this way? How pure is my love? Or am I no different than them? How pure is my love, really? I believe God is really looking at the unification movement and his demands. He will settle for nothing less than the highest standard of true love. So you're not going to manipulate or pretend or trick people into coming back or whatever, or to follow whatever. It has to be centered on the principle. It has to be centered on the true love, unconditional love. So God is purging our movement. But it's okay. This kind of a purge is okay. The kind of the purge that you see in the movies, that evil purge, that's no good. But this is a different kind of purge. This is a purifying process. A process that's taking place. And if we welcome it, if we experience it without complaining and resenting, then we can help. We can make things better for all of us. Therefore, if the church does not stand centered on the spirit-mind people in pure connection to God and the principle, it will also fail into faithlessness. Goodness will not be established. In no way God can work if the church is a mixture of good and evil, as it is right now. Thus, entering the age of the coming of Chadoguk, we have to go through the indemnity period of the divided kingdom and resolve it. We are all divided for a reason. And that reason is because we're not loving each other properly. If we love each other properly, we won't be divided anymore. Oh my goodness. Can it be that simple? Yes, actually, it's that simple. It's that simple. On the cosmic level, God wants the true family to quickly make indemnity for all these evil forces to be liberated, so that humanity can be free to enter Chadoguk. Hunjanim has no evil lineage allowing them to invade him. Definitely, God and True Father had allowed that for a purpose of indemnity. We have to see things from a bigger picture. We have to look at things from a bigger perspective. After I read this article, I looked at some of the comments. I wanted to say, what did people think when they read this? Oh, some people were really angry and resentful. How can you say this about Hunjanim? You're so arrogant, blah, blah, blah. I get it. And I'm not, please believe me, I don't know if this, when this person says, I see the spiritual world and I see lineage, I don't know if that's exactly true, but we know the divine principle. And according to the divine principle, this makes sense. This is understandable. Resentment, anger, hatred, all of these things, we have no excuse. We have no excuse. If we cling to those things, and if we gossip, then it's on us. It's our own responsibility. God is giving us an opportunity here. True mother is the only woman in human history that showed absolute obedience and overcame all the historic resentments against husbands. In other words, remember that triangulation thing I showed in the beginning? He's saying true mother didn't fall into that trap. She's always loved her husband and been faithful to him and has always had the right relationship with him, even among her own lineage, her children. No matter what was happening around her, she kept her right relationship with her husband. And because of that, she has created a condition for all to be saved. Now she is taking the most difficult indemnity, to be accused by her own children. Yet spiritually, this is the love and grace of God and true parents, who want to quickly liberate all of humanity and the whole spirit world, including hell. Everything has to be restored to God's all-embracing love. I believe that's the truth. I've thought about this. I'm not going to get into these details, but if we thought about 40 years after True Parents came from 1960 to 2000, then that was a 40-year period. And that was to create a condition to restore all of the historical resentments. And True Parents met that condition victoriously. But the rest of mankind, the rest of us, people around us and the nation of America, all these other countries, they have not paid any attention to True Parents. They don't pay attention. So the process continues. God has to continue. So this, in a way, the 2,000-year history of restoration has to be completed. And it hasn't been completed yet for everyone. It's been completed for us, actually. The benefit for us is there. We can love. Look at among our members, we don't have problems. There's certain things we have no problems with. We're interracial, we're intercultural. I mean, if we really knew the principle well and followed it, we would have no problem. But the rest of the world, God is concerned with. So what if God took 2,000 years of history and made it into just 20 years? That would be from the year 2000 to the year 2020. Then, where would we be? 2016. We would be right about here. We would be in this period. Now, there was the kingdom became divided because God's people were fighting amongst each other. At the end of that period, it took a certain period for them to return. They started to get their act together, but they didn't get their act together immediately. There was still squabbling and changing. There was about 70 years where they were in exile. The church was held captive by foreign powers. We could say, evil spirits are like foreign powers holding the church captive. Then at the very end of that period, they were released and returned. 2016, we're about to enter this final 4-year period. 4 years ago, from September 3rd, if we count back 4 years, that's when True Father went to the spiritual world. 4 years in the spiritual world. That's a long time to be in the spiritual world when you consider what you can do in the spiritual world. A day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day to the Lord, right? Well, for 4 years, we've been divided. For 4 years, we've been kind of in exile. September 3rd is coming. The end of that period, and the beginning of a final 4-year period in this world. I believe it's significant. So it's like we're kind of in this 21st century, we're kind of going through what we went through in the 20th century. Who were some of the most important leaders of the 20th century? Mother Teresa, she set such an example, such a standard. She was like the Messiah for the Catholic Church. She was like Mother Mary for the Catholic Church, right? And she was a world leader. She set a beautiful example for everyone. Mahatma Gandhi, he was very much a messianic figure for Muslims and Hindus. He sacrificed so much to create unity between the Hindus and the Muslims. Also, he said, when I despair, I remember that all through history, the ways of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible. But in the end, they always fall. Think of it, always. That's the teaching of the true parents. And Dr. King, just before true parents came back to America in the 1970s, Dr. King rose up. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. What an example. What a standard. These people they already created the condition of unity with God. They helped to create the true Christ-like culture that the world needs to change and to grow and to become the people we're meant to become. The culture of Christianity. I've often talked about it. Christianity is not just a religion. It's not meant to be a church that people go to on Sunday, that divides, that defines, look, you're a Christian and you're not. The culture, the spiritual environment that was created by people who took the teaching of Jesus and practiced it in their lives. They even created a nation centered on the fundamental teaching and principles of the Bible, of Scripture, of Jesus, called America, where all nations, all religions, all cultures are meant to come together and resolve their problems. The environment of allowing true love to blossom and grow exists in this nation and was meant to be exported and encouraged in all nations so that everybody can share and benefit. That's the teaching of Dr. King, of Mahatma Gandhi, of Mother Teresa. The problems that we're facing in our world around us are easily resolved if we love compassionately and correctly, centered on true parents. True parents came and have completed this providence, meaning they have provided the opportunity. It is on us now. It is on us now to love and obey and follow and be confident. Be bold. Get outside yourself. Go and visit people that you normally wouldn't visit, and then listen and learn and care. And let us not try too quickly to take the speck out of each other's eye. Let us reflect and really pray and have the right heart, and then let's go out to each other and share with each other and love each other and support each other and help each other. Again, as I've said it so many times at the end of every one of my services, if you look around, despite the headlines, despite the terrible events that take place in Dallas, or the problems between the races, the cultures, the religions, these are personal issues. They are all very personal issues that are taking place. And they're only going to be resolved on a personal level, on a one-to-one level. For every bad, evil, angry, resentful person that's out there, you can see suddenly so much compassion and care and concern and frustration and people trying to make the situation better. More people are trying to make the situation better than are trying to make it worse. I think Brother Bob would agree with me. He believes in the goodness of people. He believes in the deep goodness of people, that people are fundamentally good. And that is true. That is the teaching of God. God designed and created us with the original nature of goodness. So many things happened this last week, but I am filled with so much hope and confidence. But I'll be honest with you, I get frustrated. I see these things and I'm beside myself sometimes. How can these things still happen? It's so frustrating. But we have to really be careful. We have to pray and love. And the teaching. First, reflect. Don't approach another person to criticize them or to complain to them unless, you really in your own heart are clear. I only want to help you. I only want to make your situation better in a principled way. If we have that attitude, then we can dialogue. We can have give and take. Our members, all the unification members, all the blessed families are meant to be able to be like seeds of goodness. We have to plant ourselves out there in such a way that we can help people and support and encourage them. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Parent, God, you are our eternal parent, and you are so concerned with each of our lives. And when we look at the world, it's so hard to digest so many things, but you, on the other hand, are infinite. You're invisible. Your Spirit is able to touch the minds and the hearts of every person. And you know each one of us intimately. You know each one of us personally. As Jesus taught, even the hairs on our head. Well, some of us, it's easier to count them than others. But in any case, you know us so well, so personally. And I pray that you can really help each one of us to have the right heart, the right spirit. Help us to be humble. Help us to be objective to you and to see the big picture and to realize you are the parent of true love and that you want us to be principled people and that you're not just dumping on us to make us, because you want to see how much we can take or whatever, but there's a providence. You want us to be able to help the situation. You want us to be able to be encouraging in difficult situations. Father, please help us to grow up and become your true sons and your true daughters, and to not be angry and bitter toward each other, but to forgive, to love, to unite. Thank you. This is the example in 2,000 years ago when Jesus lost everything. It appeared that there was absolutely nothing. All he had was one thief, one person hanging on the cross next to him that said one good word, that said, "Remember me, Lord, when you come into your kingdom." And even that one word gave hope to him. And still, looking down on a situation that looked so miserable, he still said, "Father, forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing." And he forgave people, and he kept his heart of love for mankind. And because of that, Father, 2,000 years later now, we can benefit from the standard and the teaching and the condition and the indemnity that Jesus paid and the lineage that he promoted. And we have our true parents who teach us the divine principle, who explain everything to us. Thank you, Father. I pray now that you can bless all of our members here and guide everybody and be with all families in these trying times and help them to not be bitter and resentful, but to resolve their resentment with true love. I report this and pray this We all pray together as Blessed Central families. And in my name, John and Sharon Pace, Blessed Central family. Amen. Jude.